Yeah. All right. So today we want to talk about New World. If you guys don't know who we are, I am Tarnish, avid MMO player, also GM of a pretty good guild in Star Wars and World of Warcraft. One second here. All right. Obviously, the whole movement of our channel is to try and help developers create better MMOs. We've noticed a lot of these MMOs have been flopping, not doing very well, and the king of all MMOs, World of Warcraft, has been getting ill and sicker and sicker. It seems like every expansion. So we're at a point now where we're kind of in a dire place where we kind of need help. Starting to feel hopeless. So we're here trying to help out the MMO community and developers and help them find that nice sweet spot to create a really good MMO. And I'll go ahead and pass off Caillou do his introduction.
Absolutely, I am Ricayu. I am pretty much the healer's healer. Every game MMO I've ever played, I have gone super into healing, and I always try to go for the highest level, whether it be rating or PvP. But it's something that I enjoy. I love. So that's my perspective for many of the MMOs. So for the game we're looking at today, New World, you had better believe I was paying attention to that healing weapon and all that good stuff. But we'll get into all the specifics later. But I am really eager for you guys not only to meet me, Tarnish, and myself, but to also become an MMO Avenger. Because honestly, guys, if we lend our voices, it's going to make a difference. So your voice does matter. So your comments, like the feedback. And what's great about New World is they are paying attention to the community. And we're going to get into that as well. And so they have made a ton of changes. And guys, your voice is actually can really make something happen. So that's really our mission, but not just for New World, but we really want to take a stake in all MMOs. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going over New World. And no, not Ireland. We're going to be going into a different type of New World. But go ahead and take it away, Tarnish.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I feel like it has been a little bit under the radar. The New World is an Amazon created MMO that's coming out later this year. I believe it's going to come out August if it hasn't been delayed. The beta should start in July.
July
Um,
20th. Yeah, July 20th.
yeah, so I'm pretty stoked about it actually after doing the research on it. Most MMOs I do research on, I start to find clear holes right away. New World had a bunch of them when I first looked at it. Um, I'd say one of the best things I'm going to say right out the get go about this game is that the developers indeed are listening to the player base. So they had a lot of negative reviews on what the game was like. And so what happened was the developers actually fixed them, and not just fixed them all, and then actually proceeded to make the game better on top of that. So they've exceeded expectations significantly, and that is a very, very big breath of fresh air. So for the MMO community, should I say, we should be very stoked about the stance that Amazon's taking, especially since we know they have the budget to make a really good MMO, and the fact that actually listening to people is it's something that everyone should be celebrating.
And I think that a lot of times when we, especially for those of us who have played multiple MMOs, we have seen, dating back to Star Wars Galaxies, what happens when a big company comes in. Usually the result is not positive. So Sony bought Star Wars Galaxies and it was a disaster. I think they went from like 32 classes down to 8 overnight. So you were like, wait, what happened to my dancer? It's gone. So that's usually not a good thing. We had Activision acquire, of course, Blizzard Entertainment. So there's just a lot of problems when you have a mega corporation. But I think with Amazon, if we look at what's happened, is they have essentially listened to the people developing the game, listening to their player base, and they said just get it done right. And so what we're seeing is there have been already 2 pushbacks. The game should have been launched this spring. But then it got pushed back until May 31st, and then that got pushed back now again to August 31st, right? So, and that can be a negative. However, I think in this case, that is a very hopeful, because it's not just, okay, well, we're just pushing this back, but they're implementing the changes, and we're going to be reviewing those. So I think with Amazon just kind of backing this and listening to us as the players, I think we got some hopeful a pretty amazing game that it's at least it's looking to be.
Yeah. So as usual, we're gonna break things down into the systems of what that composes the game, and then we'll start to see how they start to intersect, and then give you guys a grand scope of how the game's gonna work, and essentially what your experience might end up looking like. We're able to do that with a lot of other MMOs. So with this one, let's start with the world and how the world reacts, and how the world will work when you get into it. So the basic fundamental is a lot of games use a node system of some sort. This has a very, I guess I would say it's a simpler node system comparatively to Ashes Creation, was a very, very advanced node system. This system is very simple. Um, the node system kind of like is more simple as in the fact that you do quests, you are affecting the world, but it's more about controlling the world than I would say advancing the world and changing the way the world is. Um, so with this system, it's simple. You're fighting and controlling the world and fighting off corruption that is slowly and growing and teleporting in and spawning in areas and trying to corrupt and ruin the world. So the world is interactive. It does change as of the effect the player has on it is more of conquering or taking over the territories.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything there, Rikai?
I think it's pretty. You definitely nailed it. We're going to be arriving. It's like imagine this game takes place like in the 1600s, and so we're going to. This is like America just got founded, right? So we're going to the New World, but the New World we discover is not quite what we're expecting. The way the developers describe it, it's a haunted Eden. So it's going to be this beautiful place, like almost over every vista, almost like there's going to be something beautiful that you can interact with. So it's not just, oh, that's nice. It's something you can do. And then as you head further north, the corruption that is in the game, it's going to get deeper and deeper and greater and greater. And so as we are taking over, kind of like imagine if we are in a state, like we're taking over little counties and we're taking over these little areas, the corruption is not going to just let you take over. They're trying to push further south. They're trying to expand. And as you fight that corruption back, and I loved the way the developer said it, when you fight the corruption, like it's basically they said that the corrupted, they will come for you, which to me I'm like, whoa. And so we're going to talk about what that means. Like, what does it mean that the corruption are going to come for you? The game's going to it's going to notice you and be like, oh, really? And so that's kind of a neat element. It's like, whoa, we're actually affecting the world and we're spawning changes. So that's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, so you start off like it says as a character. There are no classes, which I think is kind of cool. And then at level 10, I believe you have to pick a faction. There's three factions. I think the three faction thing's kind of cool. What do you think about that, Rick? The three faction.
Honestly, I think it is pretty cool. However, there's always going to be the concern, like, well, I hope I don't pick the faction that's like the weakest, or what happens if, geez, because from what they stated, once you pick, you pick. I don't believe there's going to be a quest or something that you can just take up. But I want to switch that faction. They're actually stronger, so I guess so you can start a new character, right? However, I kind of am very interested to see how this is going to work. I think we've played enough games where in Star Wars we had the Republic and we had the Sith, right? So you could actually go one way or the other. In WoW, World of Warcraft, we had the Horde, we had the Alliance. So I think we're used to two factions. We've seen that play out. One dominates the other. The amount of intrigue that can happen with a third, like it's like, hey, you know what? That's the strong faction. Let's band together and let's beat them back. So there could almost be an alliance between two factions, which could be kind of crazy. So I think that if one is getting too deliberate and too strong and puffed up, I like the idea that there's some new dynamics that we haven't seen in gaming yet. And I am down for new, fresh, and different. And I think that's what the third faction is going to give us.
Yeah, three factions is interesting because there is likely going to be imbalance. However, how is it going to affect you in the open world is really the true question. Um, I guess I'll go over the three factions very briefly with you, so you have a general idea. As far as which one will be stronger. We're not speaking about any kind of passives or anything like that. We're actually talking about actual just strength, as in numbers. So there's the Marauders. The ideal behind the Marauders is they're a ruthless military force bent on establishing a free nation where everyone with the strength to do so can prosper and profit. And then you have the Syndicate, which is a secretive organization of boundless guile and intellect in search of forbidden knowledge to usher in a new age of enlightenment. And then we have the Covenant, which is a fanatical order that has changed itself with but cleansing the land of heretics and defilers so that its true holy nature can flourish and justice can be restored.
Pretty much everyone else besides them. That's what that sounds like.
Yeah. So you got those three factions, and basically, yeah, I don't know because again, obviously, there's gonna be a lot of PvP, as I mentioned, with the controlling of the areas. Each faction is obviously fighting for the map essentially, and different areas. And there's almost like Rick said, counties that you can take over, and then pushing and with doing quests and trying to push each other back and forth and take over and sieging fortresses and so on and so on. So with that being the case, in these three factions, which one's going to you can definitely see the moment where there's gonna be like a bunch of one faction, and then there's the two other that are split and maybe not so strong. The cool thing that they did mention is that you can alliance with the other, not so much alliances and you see each other in the world and you guys are friends, but say you guys want to go fight, let's say the Marauders or the faction with the most players, you can alliance use players from the other third faction to then fight. So the Covenant and the what was the other one, the Syndicate, can work together to fight the Marauders on one of the fortresses and take them out of power essentially. So with the third being there, it's good and it's bad. I don't know what the actual difference would be if you had two factions versus three, really. The player base would just pick one or the other. So I guess the third one, what it kind of does is does split the power a little bit more, which helps it from having just one faction being too strong. Where, for example, in World of Warcraft, we have Horde and Alliance. There's Horde dominated servers and there's Alliance dominated servers. Having that third faction there kind of makes it harder for one faction to truly control the map, I guess. So I have to say, I think it's interesting and I kind of like it. So definitely pro three factions. I think it's interesting. Makes people think a little bit harder about things. And there's never going to be a true ruler of one server unless they're super imbalanced. And in which case, I hope there is something they can do to prevent that.
And so pretty much the factions, which one do you pick? It's just which lore you're interested in. So like which one, like, so out of curiosity, Tarnish, which lore are you interested in? Like what is the one that you're looking at?
I like the Marauders, ruthless military force, and then a free nation where, you have the power to prosper based on what your power is. I like that. I like that idea. What about you?
It's either between the Syndicate or the Marauders. Marauders sound pretty cool. Kind of sounds like the U.S. like just kind of like declaring their independence, like, oh, let's get free, which I think that's kind of cool. Syndicate, the story sounds kind of interesting. I'm like, but I probably Marauders right now is standing out a little bit more to me. But I think I don't know, all of them can be cool, but we're gonna find out more, especially the beta when that comes out. I think that'll be kind of fun to kind of pick one and just kind of see if it's going to be good.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be cool. I like that there's no straight up passive or bonus you get for being any of these. It's just whatever you prefer personality wise.
And the look. So your armor is going to look a certain way. And
yeah. So I guess there is a style to it. I'll be honest, none of the styles are really blowing me off the, I'm not like, oh, that one looks cooler than this one. They all kind of look very similar. I think it's actually a 1700s look. But like I said, it's like okay, definitely cool. You still have the swords, the axes, that's stuff I'm really interested in. You do have some muskets and stuff like that, but nothing too advanced to the point where you're like, okay, we're not really in middle age fighting towards of combat, so no automatic weapons or anything.
No, definitely not.
So I wanted to go into the classes next. I'm trying to find the slide for that.
Yeah. So do you want me to start off on that one a little bit?
Yeah, if you want to talk about it,
Sure.
why I look for it, just make sure I have everything.
So in most MMOs, you actually pick a class, and so you start off, and I want to be a smuggler, or I want to be a barbarian, or I want to be a mage. So you pick a class. This is designed to be a classless game. You do not pick a class. Instead, pick up a weapon, just like the real world, and get good with it. So you have to like if you there's gonna be no restriction. If I want to pick up a bow and try it out for a few just like 30 minutes, and I'm like, I'm not really getting into this. If you want to pick up a sword and actually go and just it's very refreshing in that you can truly find your playstyle without having to create a new character. So as you develop that weapon and your skill in that weapon, you can become a master with that weapon, and like you're developing powers and unlocking powers. But again, if you find that as you get this epic like two-handed axe or like two-handed mace or hammer or something, you're like, you know what, like I guess I want to like I got a legendary, heck yeah, let's go ahead and like go for this. Maybe I want to like do that. So it's going to be pretty neat to see some players change. They'll start off kind of one thing, and then maybe they're for their secondary they'll get the musket, or so you actually can have like two different weapons that you're really going to be working with. But it's pretty cool. So it's not one class or the other. It's everything's available to you, and just which way you want to explore.
Yeah, I have to say I really like this because, well, first of all, just look at your core attributes and how they work. So you have strength, you have dexterity, intelligence, focus, and constitution. Um, so obviously with the class, you just pick up a weapon and it's called weapon mastery. You're mastering your weapon, and there's skill points you earn through using the weapon. It's very similar to like Conan. If you've ever played Conan Exiles, it's very similar to that. And what the cool thing about Conan Exiles is, if you ever played, is you're swapping between weapons all the time, and you can either level them all up or you can level two of them up. Most people you pick one or two and they level them up quick, and then they start working on other things as they find they need them. Or there's usually two weapons that really synergize well together, or you'll have multiple different axes that have different debuffs or whatever the case may be, trying to apply to the target, and then you switch back. I think there is going to be I know it's one of the things we're talking about is making there like, kind of like a limit, so you just can't swap between 12 different weapons. I don't know if they've actually added that, implemented it, but I know there was a discussion about it. But I really like, just like I said, the statistics here with the strength, dexterity, intelligence, focus, and constitution. This is really how you're going to really, I guess, spec your character, and you can change this whenever. So there's nothing really concrete about your character. So say your guild needs a healer, you can now respec, pick up your healing weapon, level it up, and now you're a healer. Now, obviously, leveling it up is going to be where you take the most of the time there. You are going to have to work on that weapon to get it up, but you can change your stats. So what strength affects is basically melee weapons and how hard you hit. Dexterity also works with weapons and damage, but dexterity is a little bit weaker. It also, dexterity will work with your ranged weapons more so, priority on those. Your lighter melee weapons will be affected, but strength actually will promote your melee weapons. There's far more, but if you are looking to use the ranged weapons, dexterity is going to be important to you. Then intelligence is magic, usually perks and powers and abilities. And then you have focus, which is actually your mana recovery rate, which is pretty cool. And it also affects your cooldown, so you can fire off with spells faster. And then constitution is basically like your health stat. So, and they did make it so your constitution is point for point just as strong as if you're powering up your attack. So you can low up your health high enough to where it balances with your damage. So you have people going all damage and just outscaling the health scales just as well with damage. So you are not going to just walk around and get one shot by people. And then the same thing, it kind of goes over trade skills here too. So those trade skills are very similar. You have levels, and as you use whatever you're using, your skill will continue to go up. And then you have your mastery. Now, when you master a weapon, there's kind of like talent slots that you get for weaponry, your masteries, whatever. You get little things you can you get like bonus abilities and such like that, or different passives and effects that they get for increasing your abilities with mastering the weapon. But that's the gist. And that's how you kind of create a class based on how you want to play it, which is really really cool. The one of the issues though with this, which I've mentioned this with other MMOs, is when you have classes like this, there's typically sometimes you can find one that's really really busted, and just is way better than the rest. So in the beginning, I see it's been a lot of fun, but as we saw with ESO, after a little while, really busted things were found, and then people started running to it. So actually, in the alpha, they already found a staff that was really, really busted. They were teleporting around and shooting around. So everybody was using it. So what they did is they just took it out of the game. So I guess it's good because they're watching it. Um, they're watching, they're adapting, and they're nerfing, and they're getting rid of things that are broken. So I guess that's a good thing to look for. So is there a con to this? 100%. I think the con is simple. There's going to likely be something that's busted, and they're going to have to fix it. The thing that I think that helps with me feel better about this is that they're actively watching and already finding things and getting rid of them or changing them or nerfing them. What are your thoughts on that, Rick?
Yeah, I think if you just take a look at the amount of information that they're giving on the adjustments, because this game has been the alpha that happened last year. It was something that. Sorry about that. My camera cut off, and usually is on my lap, so I have wasn't able to refresh my thing there. But there have been just like this last one of the last things. It was like 19 pages. I don't know if it was. I think it might have been February of changes that they did. And so, I mean, changing effects like this effect, or this no longer has a stagger, or so they are really taking the time to go through and try to balance things. So I am not too concerned over something being OP or not. I think they're actually working with that. Then with the newest alpha that they came out with on the 30th of March, you can already see like a few days ago, they've already been implementing some even more changes, and it's kind of almost overwhelming to look at all of the things that are going through. As I was going through some YouTube videos, it was almost some people were just reading the patch notes. It was kind of like, dude, I could have read the patch notes. Come on, man. But it was just there's been a lot of adjustments and fine tuning. So I'm having a lot of confidence at the level of where the game is at, with the release being in August. I really think that they're doing the right things, and it kind of feels like, okay, we're trying to create that balance versus, and so and now, hey, play the game. We're gonna invite you to the alpha again. Okay, let's take that out. Let's adjust this. So it's very interesting, and a lot of players have been reacting like, well, I really like that ability, but I can see why they did that. So I think we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, with Conan Exiles, I know there was like a list. Like, if you wanted to be an archer, you could look up online and find out. Eventually, we figure out every single weapon. So long as they find a way to continue to keep things interesting by adding more weapons and adding more effects, the crafting system, being able to create more weapons and continuing to have different effects come out on them, it's going to be hard for people to figure it out. And by the time they figure it out, they change it all over again.
Yeah.
Or they nerf this and they add this in here. And then so everyone's running around, by the time people figure it out, it changes. Like, as long as it keeps growing and evolving, I can see this working out as fine. I actually really enjoyed Conan. Because, like, for example, on Conan, I played a big juggernaut two-handed weapon dude. I wanted to be a fucking meathead, so I ran around just smacking stuff, and I was having a blast with it. But eventually, I was trying to take on some of these hard dungeons by myself. I realized that it really wasn't. You need to have some kind of mix match. You need to be able to heal with potions or magic, or you needed to use a ranged weapon to shoot something to do some damage before it got to you. You need to kite, you need to run around. There's things that you need to do. You need to stack buffs. So as I started realizing I needed to do more, then I started playing different styles, and I really like different styles. And then, what happened is I played the game for so long, and I kept liking it because it kept changing. It wasn't one style. That's it. One character, make a new character. That one character evolved so much, and I was adding to it constantly. I could be a plate wearing two-handed weapon juggernaut 1 second, and then a cloth wearing caster the next, or a leather wearing rogue the following. Like I could do it all depending on what I needed or need to bring to the team or bring to the adventure or to the challenge. So the constant evolution of your character and changing to what you need to change to, and having the ability to do so is really nice. As long as you have the weapon skill, which takes time, which is the funnest part of it, is getting good at it, leveling up, figuring out, learning the new abilities. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun. So I think that this is going to have a lot of longevity,
For
but
sure.
not required longevity. It's player driven longevity, which is good. It's not like, oh, you have to level for a long time and build this metropolis, and then there's a chance to get destroyed, and it takes forever to get there. This is very simple, in your face. Do you want to do this or not want to do this? The content's very obtainable. It's easy to jump into it. You literally just dropped in this big world, and you're out there figuring out. You pick a faction, and then you get after it, and it's a lot of fun.
And it's kind of
So
cool that they are coming up with new things. So I think it was a few days ago, they had like a Twitter, like, hey, tweet this 200 times and we'll go ahead and give you. And so they revealed like these gauntlets. So like there's this like cool ice gauntlet, and there's other ones that you can do. I think February the surprise was like a rapier. So they keep kind of coming out with new things. So even if you play the alpha, it's kind of like, ooh,
yeah, and even
that's
then,
kind of
like,
cool.
look how much has changed. Like they keep changing stuff, and
Yeah,
for the better, should I
I think
say,
so.
for the better.
I
So
mean, just crafting what 100 new weapons and 50 new pieces of armor. Just like got that was another thing that got announced. I'm like, whoa, whoa, and I love crafting, man. So I'm like, oh, let's keep
yeah,
going. Let's go.
the crafting is amazing. I just might as well stumble into that.
Okay.
Crafting is simple. You just like with the weapon mastery, you're crafting, you're leveling up your skills, and then as your skills increase, you have obviously better quality items you can make, but you also have proficiency, so you have a chance of it scaling upward from through your proficiency of it. So if you want to make an iron sword, there's a chance that iron sword might be better than the steel sword because you're better at making it, right? Because you've gotten better at skills. And then when you also add into the this is what actually Star Wars Galaxies had, where you can go get these really rare materials and then craft an item with those instead. So say instead of making it with iron, you use like I think the example they use is like fel iron, but I'm not sure what iron's in the game. But say there's a really advanced metal like star metal or something like that, you can get that, and then you can use that as supplement from the iron, and it'll give you more stat, right? Or you can get this rare horn, use that as the handle, and now you have
A socket or something. Yeah.
a better socket or effect that it's with fire now, and you have a fire enchant essentially. So there's a lot of cool things you can do and make the weapon even more powerful. So it really has leveled up, made crafting a lot more fun, more interesting, and really makes it important, I guess. So you're definitely gonna look for those specific crafters of the specific like armor smith or swordsmith, or you're gonna be looking for those people to craft things for you. And then the gatherers have those very unique items that you need in order to get special perks or effects that'll help benefit you. So so a little bit everywhere. You need a little bit of everything to really min max, I guess, to what your liking would be.
Yeah, and what's also cool about the crafting is just the ability that your guild or your group is going to allow your crafters to advance and excel. So if you're a member of a guild in your city, if you're in a city that actually has like a high level crafting station, so if you want to do like the high level alchemy or the high level swordsmithing, you need to find these high level like locations like level 3 to then to be going and be able to make these things. So you want to find places to live that actually, or you have access to these things. So so that's going to be something when we talk about guilds and taking over forts and all that stuff, that you want to have a place to craft and a place to be a part of in a community.
Yeah. So the cool thing with the crafting is, like I said, like you said, with the smithing tables and all that and whatnot, it's very cool. Something that's kind of fun that I kind of want to go over was, so you can buy like player housing in some of these areas when you take them over. So say you gain the standing, which is I guess it's 2 and 1 there. So in order to get a house, you must then take advantage of of a fort. You take over a fort, which means you get the standing. The way you do get the standing is through doing quests through your faction in that area, which will give you a standing in that area. And then you can take over a fort. And then once you take over a fort, you now are control that area. Once you control that area, you can now you can now take over, or you can now buy a house once you get a standing to a certain level. Obviously, it's going to cost you some gold, but you can essentially buy a house. And with the house, there's actually a really cool thing where, say you're someone visiting and you go through the town, whoever house is shown, because obviously it's a plot, so like multiple people can go through and buy the same plot, but it's just instance to whatever you own. But when the visitor comes through, what they will see is whoever has the best decorated house. And I'm sure there's some kind of measurement of to show that. In Star Wars: The Republic, they have that where you get kind of like a score, right? So I know some people have some really high scores. You can go through, you can see their houses. But with this game, you go in there, and whoever has the best score, the best house, it'll just be there. So you walk through, you can see this really cool house, all these cool decorations, which gives you a little bit of a want to decorate your house, and then to be the most decorated house so that so that everyone can see your cool house. So it's a little bit, it's kind of cool. And there is a score, and you're able to see, so you're able to tell if you have the best score or not. So it's kind of like a recreational fun thing to do, but still be competitive in a way, which is just fun. I like stuff like that. I love when WoW does stuff like that. When MMOs have stuff like this, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that that's an awesome feature. So you basically you take over the fort of an area, and then you don't start off with a big giant city with all these plots yet. You have to develop it. You have to, as a guild, you kind of like starts off a little village, it grows up into a town, and just keeps growing. And that, I think, is what's really really cool. A lot of times, as you know, we're looking for like, hey, like what can we do as a guild? Usually, you just go into a dungeon, or you build up, you do a raid, and you're done for the week. If I'm a tailor and I'm crafting something, well, I make my bag and I sell it, and I'm just making money. But what's really cool is that everything that I do, if I gather, if I get some iron in a dungeon from a chest or something, well, I can donate that to my town, to my guild, and then some other crafter is going to be doing something with that. And then because they're doing things, that's going to develop our town, that's going to develop our city. And it's pretty much, soon you get to Metropolis that level, and you get this big place, and now you have all these plots like that people can buy. So it's very possible that 20 people have bought this one plot right there. But just like Tarnish said, the person who's done the best at that plot, the coolest house, the best decorated house, is the one that's going to be on display as people are walking through the town. And even though my house may not be visible, let's say I'm in that spot, maybe at the second best house, I can still have 4 people go inside the house and show them, hey, look what I've done. Hey, take a look. So it's kind of like a little small instanced area where you can take some people in and you can show them what you've done. And or even like if you're a furniture salesman, hey, look at this cool furniture I made. Hey, do you want to buy something? Hey, come on in. So that can be, but there's also shops and stuff. But it's really, really cool the level of thought that is going into these towns and these forts. And this is like a guild activity. And like that's having a community. That's so awesome. But not only can you have a community, you are able to have more than one player house. So you can actually have a second player house and a third player house. So that could be in another city. So you can almost have like other friends and other guilds and other alliances. And so it's really kind of cool. Like that you can just be, at different parts. But there are going to be some advantages and disadvantages. If I'm in charge of an area, if I'm in charge of a guild, we can set a tax for those people who are there. So if a tax is too high, I may not want to be in your town. I'll be like, no, thank you, I'm good. Because I have 3 houses, I can be taxed 3 times. So that's something to think about. That you may not be afford to live in a town that has everything upgraded. And maybe they're getting attacked by hordes of legions and monsters, and so they need to tax everybody because they need to keep things going on. But I've kind of spilled into a few different areas, so I'm gonna throw it back to Tarnish because he's keeping us on track today with what our topics are. So go ahead and go, buddy.
Yeah, so the guild, it's actually more faction based. The guild does, I guess you could say the guild owns it. The reality is, so I guess a faction could take over a town or whatever the case may be, right? So they own that little area. They have a fort and they have a town, right?
And guilds are really called companies, so I'm kind of using the wrong name.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, and there's different terminology. Obviously, come from different MMOs. It gets all mixed up. But the thing is, so you don't have to be part of the guild in order to base there. You can base there with I want to say it's even cross faction. I had to check on that, but I know that you can be there with the same faction but different guild for sure. So there's no limitation with that. It's just more of a you want to be part of a town that's upgraded for the smith, the table, all these different reasons. So it's not necessarily I'm part of this guild, so I'm going to defend it. You might just set up camp there because this area is progressed and they have a really good forge or smith that you want. So you're going to go there and live there for those reasons. That just, I think some people were asking some questions. I wanted to make sure that we're clarifying that.
Okay.
But yeah, so with that, then the next thing, like you said, with the legions of things attacking, you also have players attacking. So the cool thing, I guess we should probably go into PvE, because PvP is really self-explanatory. PvE is a little bit more because they just recently added it to the game. So the PvE is more interesting to me because of that. And then two, there's similarities with Ashes of Creation in this game. There's a lot of similarities, so a lot of people have been comparing the two. I think this game is a little bit simpler. So when it comes to the PvE content, there's some pros and there's obviously some cons, right? But they're not done yet, so I don't want to hit it too hard here. But so with PvE content, there are invasions where the corruption will grow in your area, and it's up to that area, so whoever owns that area, to combat the corruption. And there's different levels of corruption that can happen. And honestly, if you let it sit there and you don't push it back or defeat it, it will grow and get worse and worse and worse, and eventually come after your town. So you have to literally go out there and kill it. And some of it might be simple. One player can knock it out, and it might be worse where you need a group and it might need a raid to clear that place out. But the corruption can come and it can spawn. So that's one aspect. And then there are just straight up invasions, but they'll spawn. It'll be really, really bad, and they'll try to invade and take out your fort. So you have to defend it, which is fun. There's really cool aspects of the invasion, which the invasion, there's eventually two versions of it. There's a PvP and a PvE, right? The PvP version is the players doing it, and then the PvE is the NPCs are coming to attack you. So when the NPCs spawn and they're corrupt and they're coming to attack you, you can build all kinds of different fortifications. And when the actual battle happens, you'll be teleported to the town, and you'll be able to essentially use these tokens, kind of like in like a. It reminds me a lot of like the shop in like League of Legends or Dota, where you have like an income, and you spend those things on explosives or traps or whatever the case may be, and then you go out and you fight with your abilities, and you also have these little things you can set up with traps or whatever the case may be. And then the town can build fortifications that you can use during the invasions, which could be pools of lava that you push the buckets over, and it melts somewhere at the gate. And you can have cannons on the corners of the base that you can get on and start using them and shooting people. You have catapults, stuff like that, just essentially to fight off the invasion. And then you also have the 10 heroes you can switch out to. So it's cool. So if you have 10 people, like say it's your guild, you can be like, Tarnish is one of my heroes. You can send them a message saying, hey, I need your help. You're a hero. Please come help us. And you have 10 heroes. I'm not sure there's any special abilities or coolness that comes with that other than the fact that you're counted as a hero. So
yeah, the 50, it's usually, I believe it's a 50-man raid, 50 versus 50. So if you're attacking someone else's metropolis, you get basically it's 50 people. So 40 really are your group, and then you can actually invite 10 outside people. Same thing if you're defending, like if you know somebody, and like let's say you know that they're awesome, like and they're good at invasions and stuff, you can actually like, can you imagine selling your services? Like you're like the invasion specialist. It's like, hey, I'm great at defending walls, or I'm great at cannons, or whatever it is. You can actually have people come in who are not even associated or affiliated with you, but they can kind of be your kind of mercenaries and be part of those 10 heroes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The PvP aspect of it is cooler because you have to work at it. It takes effort, and then you get the standing to make the area weak enough where you can actually invade it. The PvE I think is really cool. It's the simple fact of it spawns. You either catch it and you wipe it out, or it grows and becomes a huge problem you have to deal with. And then the other part of PvE content, which is really cool, is you have uh, expeditions, I think is what they're called, and they're basically dungeons. They just added in, so you have the dungeons that we can do, which is really really cool. I heard they're really hard right now, so they're tuning them, but apparently they're really really hard. And then we also have these keys you can find around the world where you it gives you a coordinate on the map. You go there with a group, you spawn in, you fight this super super hard. I think it's called like a nymph or something like that. And this thing is apparently one of the hardest things in the game. And you have a time limit to try and kill it, and either if you kill it or you fail, or you either have to kill it or you can fail by the time limit, or you can just it can just kick your butt. So either way you go about it. So hopefully you can kill it. If you kill it in time, there's really powerful loot in there. And if you can't kill it, because apparently it is super hard, it's like one of the hardest things you can do in the game. Um, you might not be able to, but these nymph keys are gonna be, I guess, apparently pretty rare, and they're very, very hard to complete. So it's gonna be very interesting to see that. The biggest question I have with this game, which is similar to Conan, where I had a lot of we had issues forming groups because trying to figure out like how to tank, because with this, it's not a traditional MMO where you have a taunt or something to gain aggro. So what you had to do is, melee classes basically did a bunch of damage, get aggro, switch your sword and shield, and fight with it. And then once the other guy took aggro again, you swap back to your two-hander or your dual wielding or whatever it was. And then tanking was very interesting in that game, because if you're a melee, you basically were expected to tank. And then range, if they took aggro, now they're running away, trying to lose aggro. So it was very interesting on doing PvE content with the way the game works without having actual, they call it a trinity, where you have a tank, a DPS, and a healer. You can have healers, but there's no true tank as far as I know. So I wouldn't be opposed to adding in some kind of something to have a threat generation so that we can have that tank, healer, and DPS we really need to.
Well, that was something that they mentioned on some of the patch notes recently, that there are some tanky abilities that you can do. However, some of those got removed. But a lot of those are either being used with staggers, or there's other things that you can do to kind of generate that aggro. But it's definitely, there's not a set tank class because there's no classes, right? So, but it's just as you develop those abilities, there are some that you can just.
Did you see
generate.
anything that was threat based that actually gave you threat?
Yeah, there is. So some of the things that they had, there was like a shield, and the names have switched. This is where it got a little confusing, because again, there's so many different. The pages went like on pages and pages. So in some of them they use the same effects, but then. So that's where. So some of the things are. So like there's a charge with a shield, and then there was like a. So there were some things that they did have that they were very specific in the patch notes, like the very recent ones, that they actually.
So you didn't give an example. So was there anything threat based, like gave you actual threat to the monster?
It's like it's not called a shield bash or shield. It's like, I think it might have been shield rush or something like that. But there are some abilities that are going to help to have people establish threat. Yes, I believe that there are some things that do that.
Do you know the effect, like what it did? They give you threat?
Yeah.
Give you, or is it a taunt? Well, do you know what it was?
Let me look that up while we are going over the next thing, because I did see that.
Okay, so yeah, one of the like I said, this is one of the issues with these games. Although it's really really cool and it's fun, if you're trying to go for competitive PvE content, it's going to be really hard to do so without a taunt, a threat generation of some sort. For example, prop paladins and TBC have righteous fury, and actually have whatever paladins have righteous fury, right? I don't think they've ever got rid of that. So they have righteous fury. They have taunts of some sort in order to say, "Hey, monster, attack me," when someone takes aggro, right? And then obviously, aggro drops aren't necessarily required for MMO to be competitive. But the taunt and the threat generation, so you can hold aggro or generate more threat than a DPS, is important for a composition. Otherwise, you're going to be doing what you did in Conan, which we have everyone fighting for threat, and then hopefully a melee gets it and they switch to the shield when things get rough.
Okay,
But
so yeah, so shield bash strikes the shield and stuns the enemy. Shield rush, character lifts the shield and rushes forward, knock the enemy down on impact. Last stand, a character stands in a defensive stand, reducing the damage he receives. So basically, the way the shield and sword well, not class, but the shield and sword abilities, basically you can become a conventional tank with those if you develop those deep enough, and as you choose your abilities. So it's to conventional tank that you would expect a warrior to be. You would develop the shield and sword to do that. But those are the specific abilities that they had.
I heard the damage mitigation ability. Did it say anything about threat?
Uh, so slow and immobile against enemies with negative effects. Yeah, I'll keep looking a little bit deeper, but those were the specific abilities that you asked
Oh,
about.
okay. Yeah, I mean it's not a big deal. Like I said, the game's still an alpha, and that's obviously if they're putting mitigation in there. Um, that's funny. Um, with without the threat, you can be as tanky as you want, but if an archer is taking aggro every time, being tanky is a waste of time. You know what I mean? That's kind of what happened with classic WoW, where you had these fury tanks running around everywhere because like we don't need to be tanky. We need to keep threat. That's the true issue. All right. So mhm. Hey Rick, they can't hear you.
Oh crap! Can you? Okay, sorry about that, guys. So basically, what I was saying is that,
No,
um,
they're saying they can't hear you.
all right. So I believe I just unmuted my mic, so we should be good now.
Oh, okay, we're
Yeah.
good now. Okay.
Okay. So basically, you as a tank can stand in between the archer and the boss. So this game is not where like in other games where you actually are running through characters. You actually have a physical spot. So if there's three sword wielding heroes behind the monster and they're stabbing and they're doing all that extra damage, if I'm trying to get back in there, they could be in my way. Like I'm trying to get through. So if you are a tank, you literally could be standing. You're not going to pass me. So everything in this game, if you are an archer, you're physically aiming. If you have a musket, you're
Yeah.
physically aiming. So like everything is like you're actually playing your character. Same thing with tanking. Nope, you're not passing me. Bam, get back. So it's really a cool. It's going to be different than most combat that we've experienced. So it's really exciting. Like I want to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I know Conan had a lot of these X factors, things that you have to deal with in a traditional theme park MMO. But there were issues, like I said, when it came to threat. Because Conan was similar. You could block a target, you could trap it in, and then it would just switch to the closest target. But sometimes with the size of these monsters, it was really hard, and they're usually faster than us. So I actually saw a boss fight on here where the boss moved really fast, like or really fast, and the player got caught up to like instantly and was like just running for his life. Like there's not much he could do. And so that's kind of my only concern. That's why I was saying hopefully there's a taunt implemented for that tank class or that shield and sword class, where he can hit something with an ability and get aggro right back in case it does run away. And then, oh no, come back, I got you, you're mine. So if they implement that, then the game's PvE content can get, because right now I hear it's really really hard. It can stay really really hard, and we can have a lot of fun just beat our head against really hard bosses, playing with our stats, playing with the items we're using, and things get so much fun when you're doing that. Because we might say, you know what, we're gonna, me, you, and a couple of guys, let's go in there and try to dunk out this dungeon. and it's really fucking hard. So we go back, we leave, we respec, we change our weapon, we come back, or next week we're like, all right, I'm gonna go more into this stat, and I'm gonna get this weapon up so we can try it again. Maybe we need 2 healers or a hybrid healer to help out, or a debuff, or a taunt, or maybe we need more damage, so we could figure things out and play around with weapons. And that was a lot of fun in Conan. I mean, some of the bosses just hit crazy hard. So, and I have a feeling this game's gonna be very similar, which is really, really fun. It's so much fun. So I'm really excited for that. So that's the PvE content as of yet. They haven't adding it in. Prior to this, the game was pretty PvP focused. So I guess we should probably go into PvP next, unless
Yeah.
there's anything you want to add to the PvE.
No, I think we hit the PVE pretty good, and PvP. It really, that was, I think, the original intent of the game. Like, that was what it was about. And there have been some disgruntled people who've like kind of missing the way it was in the alpha, and they were like alpha dogs, and they literally would go to the beaches and slaughter people spawning in, and they couldn't, because the way it was, you died, you dropped all your stuff, yay, I loot it. And so you would have essentially bullies, and it was PvP. So pretty much the way it is with now, you can turn off and on your PvP flag. And if you want this to be an open world PvP where you can be attacked everywhere except a couple of shrines, okay, yeah, you can absolutely have that PvP experience, but it's an opt-in PvP experience versus everywhere you're going to die. And plus the beach, that can't happen to a new character anyway, because you can't even choose to turn on your PvP flag until you choose one of the 3 factions. And so you're like, okay, well, which one do I pick at level 10? So you don't even have to worry about that to start. You can just go in, it's PvE, and then there are specific PvP zones. So there's a 20v20, basically it's called Outpost Rush. That you can play with 20 players versus another 20 players. So they are creating PvP content if you really want to kind of get that battleground experience. But there's also open world opportunities for those who choose to. And there's also, if you have your PvP flag on, there are enormous benefits to experience for a chance of, better things to drop. So just having that enticing, like, hey, but if they really want to encourage more people to go PvP, they could totally like make it like 300% more, or they could make it so there's just more opportunity to get more and more things. So right now I don't think it's that significant, but if they want more PvP, for people to go PvP, just kind of increase those rewards for turning on that flag.
So I got a good question, so I'm gonna go ahead and answer it. So they asked, can you not choose a faction? And the answer is yes, you could choose not to choose a faction. However, one of the main elements of the game is your faction reputation, because everything you do will add to a faction. And not only that, but you're not going to be able to. So, as Rick was saying, the PvP is 100% going to be there, because in order to advance or do more quests or do anything, you're doing quests for your faction. So without a faction, you can't do those quests. And those quests are going to require you to PvP. So the PvP, so if you're worried about PvP content, there's no lack of it here. There's going to be tons of it. The difference is if you run up on a player who is farming or going to a dungeon or fighting a boss, and he doesn't want to PvP right now because he's too busy PvEing, he's not just a victim to you. So that's where the opt-in is more okay. That makes sense. Now the when these quests are sending you on are for PvP materials, things, and to do things that the other players on the other faction are not going to want you to do. So now they're going to opt in to stop you from doing what you're doing. So then you're obviously stuck fighting each other. The faction list, that would be interesting. However, I think you'd find yourself stuck in a way where you weren't able to do too much if you didn't pick a faction, because so much of the game is based around your faction. You would be kind of, well, one, you'd be way weaker because there's a lot of gear and stuff and patterns and stuff you can only get from your faction. And then you would have so much less to do that I think you would find yourself really bored, because you're basically trying to alienate yourself from one of the main components of the game. So I don't think that would work out. And then you want to get as much reputation with your faction as possible. So that's where everything kind of ties in together.
And the zones are, faction based. So like basically factions are fighting over the fort so they can control the zone, and then you're part of a city which you're helping your company who is in charge of that fort, who's like kind of ruling that zone, and then who's helping your faction, right? So it all kind of stems. So that's where if you want to play with friends, you guys might want to be a part of the same company so you guys can be a part of the same. So you want to be maybe kind of all picks one thing like, hey, which one do we want to go, guys? And then like let's go ahead and build up this fort, like take this fort down and let's build up this city, and then we'll get our faction rep. So I'm hoping a bunch of friends like want to join, and then like let's do a company together and let's go, like let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in Star Wars The Republic, for example, like there were specializations. I think they took this out of the game, but I had a friend who didn't pick a specialization, so he was just a level at the time. I think 60 was the max, or no, 50. He was a level 50 bounty hunter. That's it. There was no mercenary. There was no power tech. There was no nothing. He was just a bounty hunter. He had no specialty at all. He was just a guy who was a bounty hunter. So he was obviously extremely weak compared to like a regular player who picked a specialty and went down the tree. But he was just a bounty hunter. So it was kind of a unique, interesting thing. It was way harder to level up because he was super weak. But I don't know.
That's a good analogy, because if like in World of Warcraft, if you don't pick a spec, you have all these unspent points that you really like you don't really want to do that. I mean, I guess you could like, hey, what are you? Demonology? Or are you? I'm nothing. It's like, why?
Yeah. Yeah. So with this game, I think you would still be able to level up. I think you would still get points. You probably still get skill trees. You just wouldn't be able to obtain the gear, and you wouldn't be able to participate in pretty much majority of the game.
I think that you could hold it off maybe a little bit, because then you're like, if you want to see kind of the dynamics, okay, who's going where, or hey, I beat my friends to level 10, what do they want to do? I could see where you might delay it a little bit. It's not like you've turned 10, must pick, right? I believe that you're going to actually have that ability to say, okay, well, I'm going to hold off right now.
Yeah. 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 No, like I said, I don't foresee it being the thing. It'd be interesting if they left it in kind of like Star Wars did, because they're like, yeah, who's gonna do that, right? And my friend was that one guy who did it, but it was like, what was the point? Like, I remember the developer, we went to the Star Wars The Republic cantina events all the time, so we go drink and hang out with the developers, and I remember him looking at my friend going, how would you do that? Like, why would you do that? We spent all that time leveling up. It must have been so hard. And he goes, it was very hard. Took me a lot of time, but I finally did it. I'm a level 50 bounty hunter. That's it, just a bounty hunter. And he was just like, what are you like, why would you do that? Like, cuz is there a special achievement I can get for doing it? And he was trying to talk him into getting an achievement. It didn't work. And actually they made it so you have to pick a class after that. So yeah, they obviously went the other way with it. But yeah,
Hey,
that's a funny experience.
he impacted his world, right? He made the developers actually choose, which that's pretty funny. But yeah, that's what's really cool. This game, your choices really do matter, and what you choose to do, like what weapon you choose to level up, what faction you choose, what company you choose, what you gather, what you contribute, like you're having an impact. And if you fight the corruption back, then if you are really aggressive, they may in turn do like a whole city raid, which I'm wondering if you do that. I'm sure there's special items that are going to drop off of that because the monster drops. And so it's really cool how your choices are going to matter in this game.
I like it because the way the systems work. So I'm gonna use Ashes again because Ashes is the closest game to this. It's so linked and close to like Ashes has all these systems involved to try and get you to do this, do that. Then eventually you'll do this, and you'll fight. You have to fight the whole way through. This game tried that, realized with today's society it's not going to work, and then realized though that there was still ways to make it so that the game still functioned in a way that makes you want to do it. So instead of forcing people into it, you're making people want to do it in order to accomplish their goals. So if we want that fort, we want that area to be ours. We need to do quests in that area that are PvP quests, and we need to combat basically the other faction, which means they're going to want to opt in to fight us to stop us from doing it, but it makes us want to fight. And then we're going to fight, and then someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. We're going to gain quest experience, and then we're going to turn in our quest, and we're going to gain standing, you're going to lose standing. And then eventually we're going to be able to contest your fort, and then we're going to fight for your fort. And so you're going to be constantly fighting us around every corner. And then you're going to know, hey, some guys are questing, they're making a move on our territory. We need to build cannons, we need to start building some fortification because these guys are eventually going to attack our fort, and we need to be prepared. So now you're doing quests, they're also PvP and invested, so you can build the things you need to build in order to fight off the potential siege you might be facing. So, and it's a fun, cool system where you're constantly fighting for the ground you're on, and then you're also fighting, and there's plenty of PvE content, or there's some PvP content. I'm sure they're going to add a lot more. So it's a good balance. The content right now, size wise, is have a hard limit. This looks like about 4 or 5 man, like you can group size in there to fight things. There's no, I think, essential raids yet, but everything seems to be unfolding in a good way. And one of the things I always look for is accessibility to the content, and that's definitely here, and it's easy and it's fun. There's a lot of things you want to work on, everything from decorating your house to level up your skills, your weapons, and then what is your guild's goals and what do they want to do in the PvP content. You only need a few friends to go tackle stuff. So this allows you to dive in relatively easily and quickly. So you're not stuck working forever to get to this level, to do this, do that. It's all based on what you want to do, when you want to do it, and how you want to do it, which is great. It means it's all on you to do whatever you want to do.
And I love that there's a lot of things that aren't like, okay, you have to get to level 50 or you have to get to this certain level. Like you could be level 1 and it's possible, probably pretty rare, that you can find like a legendary and you can be like, like, I mean, that could be really, really cool. So there's just a lot of things that they're really thinking about the experience as a whole and just having fun. But yeah, it's really, what do you want to do? And that's very refreshing, where I'm not stuck in this role or stuck doing this thing. It's like, okay, like I'm going to try this. I want to do this. I want to be this. So that's pretty cool.
So now we're going to get into the nitty and gritty. So if you had one thing that you could give advice to developers of the game, what would you tell them to try and make the game better?
I love the way Star Wars Galaxies, the crafting system there. So I would even encourage them to go deeper with the crafting. I love that there were people who were known for their certain materials, and like you would look and you'd be like, wait, did so and so make that? Like and it was just a component. Like this guy was the best at making sniper scopes. So you wanted his sniper scope, and then this guy made incredible weapons. It would be really cool that you could really master something so well. So I also maybe like to see higher, like different, I mean, in this world there's different qualities of ore and different qualities of things, and that's going to matter, that you can increase, the stats. But I would also want the look of the item to be affected, because that was something in Galaxies you could do. You could have like a blue, like something. So that would be pretty neat to actually be able to customize the look and really be in charge of my crafting. So it's almost there already. I think we almost have everything we want, but that would be like, you would blow my mind if I can say, okay, well, I want to have my handles of my guns that look like ash wood or mahogany wood, or like just to like be able, or like to do inlays, or just like have like my little design on it. Like that would be, maybe that's something as a master craftsman, if you really invest, you get 200 points in it. Oh man, like that would be like a dream, because then I really am shaping my world. I really am getting that reward. for actually putting all that work into it. So that would be kind of my hope. That's what I would love to see them do, but not to delay the game to do that, because this game's looking too good to delay. But that would be something really cool to eventually be able to get to do.
Yeah, I definitely, for me, it's just gonna be continuance of what they're doing. I would like to see the tank or like a sword and board spec have some kind of way to for sure hold aggro. That is gonna add a lot more complexity and more focused and more, I guess, min maxy PvE content, which will allow them to get more complicated and harder, being able to release harder content for the PvE community, which maybe can then inch us towards actual raids being released. Because right, I know in Conan they have the really hard dungeons. There's only one real big raid, um, and it's not really something we could do as a small tribe. So with this game, if they could get it complex enough to where somebody can hold aggro and someone can obviously heal them, and now DPS can min max, healers can min max, tanks can min max, be tankier, and now you get this straight up Trinity. So what they call Trinity PVEs, so they can actually get those really hard mechanics, and with this system where you are aiming your bows, you're aiming your guns, you're swinging your weapons. It just adds so much more fun because there's a whole X factor of missing uh, player error, and which could cause things to go completely haywire. And with a raid boss that's difficult, that could be a lot of fun. Oh crap! Damn it! I rolled the wrong direction. I swung, and now my taunt's down, or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. And so now someone else needs to throw on their sword and shield and try and taunt the boss before it runs after the ranged or the healer or whatever the case may be. It just could add a lot of really fun mechanics and funner PvE content. And the PvP, like I said, the PvP is there. I think it's perfectly designed. I think that if people are going to be PvPing so much, it's going to be fun. So I would just tell them to continue to work on the PvE. They are already adding in battlegrounds. I do have someone that says they want to. So Kana Dimewing 7 would like to see three-way AV type battles, three faction PvP, PvE, trying to
That
kill
would be
each other's
cool.
bosses.
Three-way,
Yeah,
that would be cool. Yeah.
yeah, that'd be cool, for sure. A battle of that size with so many people and three different factions, oh man. So you get to like fight. So then maybe two of them are working together to take out one, and then they're duking it out. And then what happens to the faction when they lose their boss? Like they can't win. So what do they do now? They just betray one of them or just cause issues with both sides. Like that it could be a lot
Seed
of
chaos, right?
it,
Chaos.
it could be a lot of fun. So I'm pretty interested in seeing something like that. That'd be pretty cool. I know they added the BG, and then with the fort PvP, there's like a capture the flag type thing where you have to go in, get on the flag with enough people to take over the fort, and so you're fighting to keep them out of the fort, and then once they get in, you got to try and hold them off. It's pretty entertaining. It looks like it's be a lot of fun. So I'm pretty stoked on PvP, and then with the way these, like I said, with these the way you're playing with all free action like this, you can miss. You can just simply miss an ability, and then oh no, he knows gonna beat me because I missed. Like that, there's so much error that could happen that could change, could tie the whole battle.
Yeah, and I think that that's one thing that they really the company's really focused on doing from even from the preview event to today. Now we're in the alpha. Like they really are listening. So this is where you can be an MMO Avenger because your voice is like, hey, this is what I want. This is what I'd like to see. Can you do this? Because it really seems like everything that they're hearing, and especially because it's not just one person, right? That's where, as a community, us challenging, saying, hey, let's get this out there. Let's do this. This is what we want. Well, this is actually a company that is listening and wants to make their game as good as they can make it. And from what I'm seeing so far, I think it's really, really encouraging. Just the amount of changes that they have gone from a straight PvP only game to now being really an open world MMO is how they describe this. So we have this huge sandbox that we can go play in, this island that we're going to be going to. And I'm very, very intrigued, interested, and it's really cool that our choices matter. But like that's really cool. But yeah, I totally agree. That'd be cool to have the 3-way like battlegrounds. That's something that that would be awesome. Also, more PvE content would be really cool too. So that would be like super, super awesome. So you guys brought some great ones, man. Great comment.
How would you feel about them opening up the world, like for the ocean? You know how we sail in and we crash?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's how it starts. So like,
Yeah, so here's kind of the lore. There's a lot of lore that I want to explore. So there are people who are trapped on this island and they can't leave. So there's all these civilizations and cultures that just have pockets and they just can't get out. So I really believe that we're also trapped there as well. So that might be something cool too. That's where maybe that's where they're going to go for the next expansion. Another cool thing about this, and speaking of future expansions, this game does not have a monthly fee to it. You buy the game, that's it.
what?
You buy the game, you pre-order, you buy it, and there is not a monthly subscription. So
Wow.
we're going to get this incredible game. You just buy that. So I'm looking at the pre-order. I'm like, okay, I get beta access in July. I don't have to pay a monthly subscription. And Amazon, I think they can afford to like do this. I think they're really trying to get us hooked. So, and I don't know if they're going to eventually like, okay, well, here's this new content. Here's the next expansion. So this is going to be an extra. So it just may be like pay as you explore new content, or they, so that's very intriguing to me. Because I had paid $15 a month for my World of Warcraft for many years, and I'm like, wow, okay. So the game, I mean, it's beautiful, it's interesting, and there's no monthly subscription. So I am like a sea battle. That would be kind of cool. Maybe we're trying to like get somewhere. I mean, but I don't think we're going to be able, at least not at the launch. But that could be a future expansion.
Yeah, I thought about that too. That maybe they're opening it up for the next expansion where we sail across the way and there's another continent over there,
Mm-hmm.
and now we have sea battles. It gives them something they can add to it.
Yeah.
Now, with everything we know about World of Warcraft, are there things that we don't want coming to this game that World of Warcraft has? For example, flying being an example, or flying kind of ruin the PvP immersion. Like it's hard. You gotta knock them off the mount now, the fight, and it causes a lot of exploitation with certain classes.
Well, I think the look and the feel of being in the 1600s, that is something that I think that hopefully they stay true to that. There was not flying back in the 1600s, so let's just keep it as it is. And oversea like travel was very dangerous. They're literally they're kind of sailing out. They're hoping they get to their destination. So that's crossing an ocean and so I'm very, very like interested. I think the sea thing, what you said, was really, really cool. But what would I not want to see from World of Warcraft? A rollback and a simplification of things. Like I want a world that I can dive into. I feel that so many games are very shallow, and it's just like I'm in the kiddie pool, and it's like, oh, okay, I can't really go swimming here. I want there to be as much breadth and like a lot of choices, but then let's develop that depth to the game as well, that there's like a lot to explore. So, and that's definitely something I think that they are appreciating and that they're really striving to do. But I think that developing more of those PvE like dungeons and raids, and I think that's something that I would love to see them continue to expand. I think it would be cool to even have attunements like what happened in the Burning Crusade, where you had to complete this, complete that, complete this artifact. Now you can go to the next one, because then as a guild and as a company, like you're fighting to do these objectives, and maybe that's partly like, hey, we want to go to the north where it's super, super corrupt, but we can't. To withstand this corruption, we have to actually get these things, so that way we can go deeper to this raid that's up there that we can't quite get to. So I think that it would be neat to see things, but again, I don't want to see what WoW did, where it's like, oh, look at all these talents. Okay, well now your talent tree is just a couple of choices that you make. That's yeah. So I'm hoping they continue to develop the depth and the breadth, not just okay, go swim in this 6 inches of water.
Yeah, I agree. I am looking for I don't want to see group finders. I want us to have to run to the dungeons. I want us to be able to run to the raids, kind of like we have to. You have to run at the key, and you have to get everybody there, and then it teleports you in. I like that idea. I don't want to be group finding up. I don't want to be cross server PvPing. I want cross server. I want to be known on the server for being the best back blacksmith or the best whatever the case may be, or I want the reputations for the servers to be a real thing again. That's there's something special about that we lost with World of Warcraft when they started crossing everything and group finding. Keep that out. I'm a little worried. It sounds like they're not going to do a subscription plan of any type. They're probably going to have a shop. It's probably going to be cosmetically a cosmetic shop. Probably going to have mounts in there. It's probably going to have armors in there. Okay. Oh, Diving just said he wants to see some world bosses. That I'm not opposed to that, especially if they're tough.
I
There's tough
think
world bosses that can make some interesting,
are those
interesting stuff.
keys, Tarnish? You think those keys are going to be kind of like a world boss, where you get those keys and then you get?
No,
Okay,
it's going to be instance. It's going to
okay.
teleport you and your group to some other plane to fight the nymph, and it's going to be super, super hard. But a world boss would be cool. Maybe it doesn't drop the best gear, but it drops stuff, maybe something you want.
Sure.
And then, I could definitely see some PvP being involved with that. So, again, if you're able to down it, cool. If not, who cares? You know what I mean? But having something out there to do, something to try and do, um, maybe that's something that you can do to gain more standing with your faction, to kill the world boss, turn in the head kind of thing. That'd be cool. Um, yeah, guys. If there's anything you guys see that you guys want to add to the game, or something that you want the developers to know about, definitely drop it in the comments, and I'll try and add it in whenever we get a chance. I'm watching the comments live, so I see there's a couple of you guys in here. But yeah, I just don't want to see anything like, we know Group Finder was horrible for World of Warcraft. It's been horrible for multiple other games. We don't want Group Finder. We don't want to. We definitely want to use, like, they have a beautiful world. This game started off as a survival. Like, the world is really beautiful. It's wonderful. I want to run through it. I want to fight things. I want to get to the dungeon, then fight in the dungeon, which they call expeditions. Um, you know, I want to go. I want to experience the world. I want to get used to the world. I want to achieve and run into obstacles in the world and have to overcome them. Uh, you know, yeah, crazy hard world bosses would be cool.
And
So
that's what I think. In this game is, I one of my favorite games I ever played was it was okay. There was Morrowind, and then there was, what was the Imperial expansion next? There was Oblivion. So when I first played that console game, I literally was just going and I would find this random cave. I would find this. It was just, I felt like there really was a world to explore. And like I was just finding these ruins and that ruins. I just everywhere I went, there was something for me to explore and do. And I was kind of blown away by that in that experience. So I think that's what PvE is. It's just that content to explore, to go and do, and just to like discover, and that, like, that's like a dream game. Like, just to be able, let me go wander and find and do stuff. So it would be kind of fun to have something like that.
yeah, and then maybe in future extensions they can start adding things, new obstacles to PvP over, which could benefit your faction or whatever the case may be, or buff your players and whatnot. So yeah, definitely a lot of cool things with New World. I definitely like it. Like I said, they keep pumping out the PvE content. They make it so you have a little bit more of that trinity where you have the healer, the tank, and the DPS. I think the tank being able to hold aggro is the biggest obstacle, because it's very it's hard to have difficult raid content without having someone be able to consistently take damage and hold aggro. Um, Obviously that could be a raid mechanic as well, but you want to be able to make the raids harder, and it's harder to make them more difficult when you're having aggro issues and the boss is all over the place and it hits the squishy player because they must all this damage that they're optimizing to do, which you want them to optimize to do because it's fun. So in order for everything to balance and work out, and they already have a point where you can literally respec on the fly, which is perfect. Yeah, I like that. We don't want to have an issue where the PvE content is relatively trivialized. Because even Conan, like bosses were hard, but they weren't hard because they were difficult mechanics. They were hard because they had like poison stacks, right? And then everybody was squishy because we're all trying to be DPS because we're used to PvP and whatever the case may be. And then we get 3 stacks of the poison and we die because we can't take it. So then I had to go build a tank set, come back, tank it, and then I lost aggro. And some people were dying anyways. It was like, oh my gosh, like it was, it was hard. It was so hard. And they had to run away. Oh no, he got 2 stacks on me. Pop a potion. I don't know what to tell you. Like, and then I get aggro back, and it was just, it, having aggro allows the boss encounters to be more complex instead of an aggro issue.
And I think as far as just looking at the healing, because I know you love tanking, so the healing, there's definitely the shielding, and then there's more of the straight healing, like the traditional healing. But since there's not classes, I don't really see a variety of healing weapons right now. So it's just like that healing staff. So it would be kind of cool if there was a healing wand, or there was like some sort of other ways, because it seems like there's only kind of one type of healing right now, unless I can combine my healing with like a DPS staff, and so like a fire shield, or if I can combine my healing with, and I'm carrying a shield, so maybe it's like I can do like a reflector. I don't know if it's going to be that specific or that ability, or it's just, oh, you pick up the healing staff and spam healing, so then everybody's doing the same exact type of healing. So I would like to see something a little bit more in depth with, I can develop how I like to heal. Maybe I'm doing more healing over times versus more shields, more straight heals. It'd be kind of neat to see the ability to develop like how I heal, and not just like everyone heals the same way. So I could stylize my healing.
For you to have like skill shots with healing abilities attached to them. So
yes.
You got to shoot and aim, and hopefully the tank doesn't roll out of the way when you shoot your heal.
That would be cool.
Dies. Yeah, that would make healing so much more fun, because obviously I have a ton of experience healing. That's something I thought about with WoW. I know priests have it a little bit, where you throw your AoEs out, paladins have the cone from, they use, they still do light on. So but when you're shooting your heals, that's cool. Like, it makes me think of like one mercenary on Star Wars. Although you are targeting and shooting, it's much different. But it made me think like shooting and healing would be so cool if you're literally shooting like bullets that are green and they healing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you like say it's like a dart. You know what I mean? It hits them and it injects them with a stimulant. Like, there's so many cool things they could do with that, which would make healing fun. And you have to be really good. You can't be missing. You know what I mean? So I could see a lot of fun stuff. So you shoot darts of different sorts. So maybe you're shooting a gun and you're shooting darts at them, and then you're switching to a staff, and then you're giving them a shield of sword, and then you're swapping back to your gun and you're shooting them with stimulants so you can keep them alive that way. Like, there'd be a lot of really cool ways to heal if they really thought about it. It's gonna be hard for them for sure. I know the majority of them are probably just thinking, oh, staff. Let's give them another staff. And you have 3 different staffs. But if you do some skill shots in there where you're actually shooting, maybe so it doesn't so much hurt you if you miss one shot, but the majority of your shots need to land in order for you to be an effective healer, that would be really fun.
I totally agree. And I just really am eager to see, like, that's one thing as a priest and as a healer in a lot of the games. You did describe it perfectly. Like, I would literally like create that little round circle of like, everyone in this healing spot's gonna get a heal. But that was fun because I kind of was like, okay, well, I guess I don't know where you're standing, dude. So I'm healing these people. And so there's even in vanilla, there are certain things, like if I had like a power infusion that I was going to give to somebody, like a buff that could do extra damage, it was a very short range. Like they had to stand pretty close to me. So positioning myself so I could heal, get that target that I was assigned, like was a thing. And I would have to tell them, hey, listen, man, like I don't know why you're standing by that door. I know what you're thinking. And Naxxramas, like you want to kill, hit Gothic, and when he teleports, I know you want to be over there to hit him for the parses, but you're out of range. I can't give you the buff. So there was those strategy things, those skill things that you had to do, and I really would like to see more. They're doing so great on the DPS. I would like to see just more complexity in the healing, because that would be fun. Like one of my favorite like April Fool's things that ever happened to me was WoW was like, we are coming out with a bard. It was like Guitar Hero, and it was like I was like, what? And like you had to like press like different buttons like in the song, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. Like I was so excited because it was gonna be something skill based, something that I could master, something that I could do. I was like ready to play a bard. And then it was an April Fool's joke, and I'm like, "Aw!" So it wasn't just me standing there pressing a 2, pressing 2. Oh, I'm gonna give them a greater heal. It would be fun to actually have that same like skill shots and those things. That would make healing a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And also they could have things like, I know in one of the expansions, Paladins had a shield ability that I think maybe it was a warrior. I'm not sure. One of the tanks had a thing where they could throw down their shield, everyone can get behind them, and they got a damage mitigation for being behind the tank with their shield in the floor. You know what I mean? So there's lots of cool things they could add,
Sure,
and
yeah.
make it more flavorful. But I think the Trinity, the whole healer tank DPS, establishing that would be really cool. So you can have those things. Like I said, the great thing about all these different weapons, be able to switch around and create your own class in a way, is that there's gonna be lots of different ways to hopefully to heal, lots of different ways to tank, lots of different ways to do damage, being hybrids, giving debuffs, or whatever the case you might want to do. I am excited to see all the different combinations, and I'm excited because it does seem like they're watching, so they're going to be able to nerf, take things out of the game that aren't balanced, and balance them and return them to the game. They're tracking all this, so there's a lot of things that I'm interested in. I'm hoping they all comes to fruition. It would be really sad to see a very boring healing style that you have to go at one healing style. That's all you got, So
Yeah,
that's a good one for sure. You don't want to be stuck with uh, the same what you call it, healing style.
sure.
Dang, so we beat the heck out of this one already. It's only 90 minutes, right? And that was with our intro.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, is there anything else you want to cover or talk about?
Yeah, I think that I think our comments and our recommendations definitely. I think that since this game is so close, that's something that I think it's great that we spent more time on that. Um, but yeah, so I I think the last thing I might say is the game really is pushing this progression system to do what you want, right? So we've seen that's being applied to the trades. We've talked about how we would like to see that progression system now applied to even, they're not really classes, but to your weapons. And so, but just the ability to have, like, can you imagine being an archer and having the healing staff, so you're like firing that bow, like healing arrows? Phew, phew. I mean, that would be so cool. Like, it would be really neat just to see like this endless possibilities with how you want to play. That would be incredible. So I'm really curious to see if they can institute this progression system into all these different areas. But again, this is just a start, and there was a major shift from PvP to now PV, like a big PvE component. And I think they're just going to go deeper. But every month they have been surprising the community. So the New World execs really coming out with new type of things, like the gauntlets. Again, that's really brand new. Maybe there's going to be a healing gauntlet. Who knows, right? So that could be dope, right? So I'm just really, really curious. And so I'm not discouraged. I really am believing that they're going to listen to us. So that's where I think you guys just need to study up on New World, communicate what you want, even just use our thing here, just like with your comments, because the New World execs are paying attention and they do care and they want to listen to you. So become an MMO Avenger and throw up your comments, and let's do this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's really cool that they're watching. Like you said, I think one of the biggest things. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. So that was a good exit. Yeah. So damn it, I had it and it was gone. Well, it happens. Yeah, guess that's going. So, like I said, they are watching. So if you guys have any input, definitely like Rick said, drop it in the comment section. Like and subscribe, become an MMO Avenger. We're trying to set up a Discord, so hopefully that'll be up soon. So yeah, please support us, and we'll keep releasing content. So thank you guys. This was Tarnish and Rick, and we're out.
We're out. See you later, guys.